Hey, good evening, everybody. Welcome to Mr. Joynt Live on YouTube, and tonight we're live streaming as well on Facebook. That way, everybody who used to go to the school that Mr. Joynt taught at can kind of get involved in what we do here on Mr. Joynt Live. It's a brand new show. We've been doing it now for about a couple months, and it's just a way for everybody to kind of see, what Mr. Joynt thinks about current times and trends and how history kind of repeats itself. But before we get started, we got to go over a couple things. Make sure you subscribe to the channel on YouTube. I always post a link in Facebook. There is a link on the description. So if you just click on that link, you automatically go to the channel and then you just hit the subscribe button. And then all that is so you could get notifications. So when we go live, you don't miss a show. Also, share the link on Facebook to more of your friends. Maybe I'm not friends with all your friends that we used to go to, these schools together. So that way everybody gets a chance to see and interact with Mr. Joynt. We will be here live every Friday night at 8 p.m. Now, next week, Mr. Joynt will be doing a ceremony or whatever at the Marlins game. He's doing a performance. So he's actually practicing for that right now. He'll be with us in a minute. He's getting his pole dance routine ready for the Marlins game. So donate to Mr. Joynt Live and buy him a cold beverage. That is the name of the show, Conspiracies and Cold Beverages with Mr. Joynt. Tonight is episode 7. Tonight is a conspiracy about conspiracy theories. That will be the subject of the show. But make sure when you use Cash App and donate to the show, you use the $RJoynt, and you can donate however much you want. And if you don't have Cash App, there is a link to the description. You can use this promo code and you get a free $5. So if you don't need the $5, buy Mr. Joynt a cold drink. But if you need it, put it in your gas tank or whatever. And we do have Mr. Joynt Live t-shirts. They are in. I am wearing one. So here it is, Mr. Joynt Live. So if you donate to the show, you get a free t-shirt. So I got another one right here just so I don't have to model mine. But it's Mr. Joynt Live on the front with a nice big American flag. And then the name of the show on the back is Conspiracies and Cold Beverages. That's just a fun little thing to have, a little souvenir for watching the show. And if you would like, you could be a guest on Mr. Joynt Live. That way you can interact with them, talk to them, ask them questions. We can invite up to 10 guests. We could actually have a mini little reunion here. And you can contact me on Facebook Messenger, or you can email me at robbiejoynt@hotmail.com. Don't worry about clogging up my email. And we do have a sponsor if you'd like to sponsor the show as well. We will post your ad on here. And so if you use Amazon, if you use Walmart to do all your shopping, try supporting alumni. Okay, so Living Color World on eBay is a sponsor to the show, and we appreciate everything this person has done. Her name is Monik Samidian, and she owns this company. So before you go to Walmart, before you go on Amazon, before you do any online shopping, make sure you check out Living Color World on eBay, okay, to get all your shopping, Christmas shopping. They're already talking about having problems with supply chain issues. So make sure before you buy anything, check out this place first. All right. And Mr. Joynt's ready. He's done. So I will bring him on now. Hey, man.
Hey, yes.
How
Pole
you doing?
dancing. Pole dancing. Yeah, that hurt, man. I stubbed my toe on the pole. So
Yeah.
anyway, sorry.
So
Yeah.
are you doing it before the game or after the game? How's it work?
Yeah. Well, it's a group of choir members from Coral Ridge Presbyterian Church that are and I'm in that group that are singing the national anthem.
Oh, my bad. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
then the pole inning will be the 7th inning stretch. No, I'm just
Okay.
kidding. No.
Ah,
No, none of that. But yeah,
can always
that's
count on you.
yeah. We even have parts. It'll be a cappella, and we actually rehearsed last night, and we got to rehearse again. We got some really, I mean, they're outstanding vocalists. They wanted me to, fill in a gap or something. I don't know. They needed warm bodies, so I acquiesced, and I'll be yeah. I think they're playing the Phillies. I think it's the last game of the season because it's October 1st. So I don't know. Marlins haven't done really well. And I'm not even sure who's leading their division. I'm not sure who it is, or they're whatever they're in. I haven't followed Major League Baseball in a while, but yeah. All right. So conspiracy theory. I told you earlier that I thought the term conspiracy theory started with the JFK assassination, but it may not have. It may have been before that. Um,
Well,
yeah.
the word was around for a while, and here let me we got some stuff. We got some curriculum we can look at.
Okay.
That's just the definition. You're right. It
Sure.
has been around for a while, but I think it was just mostly used uh, to kind of demonize, like you said,
Yeah.
after the JFK assassination. If you didn't go by the Warren report, right,
Yeah.
you were a conspiracy theorist, right? So there was
Yeah.
only one shooter. It was Lee Harvey Oswald. There was nobody on the grassy knoll. There was nobody. There wasn't a conspiracy. That was it. It was Lee Harvey
Yeah.
Oswald, the patsy. Three perfect shots.
Yeah.
At a moving target from a fifth floor of a building. You all right?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm good. I'm good. I was just checking my pole dancing shoe fell off. Anyway, sorry. Well, no, you know what I was thinking. I was going
I
to look
just
for it.
thought that was a
Yeah.
funny image of
It
my
was.
dad.
Yeah.
Like, they put it on the pitching mound, and there you are spinning around on the
Yeah.
thing. Like that's got to be a hilarious image.
Well, and that's yeah, or an image that will make people press the leave button because they have to vomit.
Or they'll drink more. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. They'll buy more
They'll be
beverages.
like,
Okay.
what
Yeah.
the heck is this?
Yeah. What is this? Geriatric pole dancing. One time, I'll tell you this really fast. Where I teach now in the public school system, I was wearing I don't know. I wear jeans a lot now, and so I was wearing a pair of jeans, and the cuff. One of the cuffs was torn. I think Lisa's probably thrown that pair out. I wish she wouldn't. And so this girl said, Mr. Joynt, this is, we're up in
Boca, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
Boca Raton. Mr. Joynt, your pants are torn. Why are your pants torn? I said, well, I'm a male stripper at an assisted living facility, and and these women keep hitting me with their canes, and one of them caught and tore my pants, and that got a few laughs, And she just looked at me like she rolled her eyes, and whatever. I get that a lot. I get that from everybody, rolling their eyes. I do that too. I roll my eyes. But anyway, yes, conspiracy theory. So, how far back? I talked to a young man tonight. He's very well read, and he said that he said it probably was like CIA, origins of the CIA, OSS, and they were debunking stuff like Pearl Harbor, maybe, that we talked about.
Yeah, that was
And yeah,
episode 5, Preludes to War.
so it was like maybe as far back as World War II. I know that when, with the schools that, we are, from, many of the viewers, including myself there for a while, 31 years, when, we had creation, creationism and evolution. And when I would get into discussions with, if I was teaching, when I was teaching at Broward, and somehow something like that would come up, I would call it the creation theory and the evolution theory. And the people that were staunch evolutionists said it's not a theory, it's a fact. I said, well, I beg to differ with you, but it is a theory. So theories, they thought I was demonizing, their lifeblood there.
Well, what's crazy is
yeah.
if you go up to somebody and you say, "Hey, do you believe in conspiracy theories?" A lot of people say, "No, that's ridiculous." But if you then ask that person this question, "Hey, do you believe that there's a belief that people, ideas, important political events, things that change political, financial structures, that these events happen and maybe some of them are planned," people will go, yeah, I could believe that. Well, then that's a conspiracy theory. If you read the definition here that we have up, so if you just ask someone flat out, "Hey, do you believe in conspiracy theories?" They're going to say no. But then if you just read, "Well, do you believe that the idea that many important political events or economic and social trends are the products of deceptive plots to the largely unknown general public?" They could say, "Yeah, I could believe that." So it's just the word conspiracy theory, like you said, has just been demonized to make you think that you're a crazy person. And then nowadays we have a new term, and it's called gaslighting. And I don't know if you know what gaslighting is. So like Gaslighting is when they tell you the same lie over and over and over again, and it's not true. Everybody
Okay.
knows it's not true. So like you say the sky is blue, and I say no, it's not. It's green. And you're like, no, it's blue, and I'm like, no, it's green. And then we sit there, and then you lose your mind. You're like, it's freaking. You get so angry. You
Yeah.
get, no, it's blue. I know it's blue. And then maybe you may even start second guessing yourself too. And so
Yes.
that's that term gaslighting.
Yeah.
So,
That's
and I think
Sal.
I
Yeah.
think that's what happens to a lot of people nowadays. They get gaslit. They just, I don't watch the news anymore. I stay away from all those news channels. It's just, I read more. Well, it's better. Your life is better. When I was watching the news before, it was like, the world is burning, right? The world's burning. The world's coming to an end. Everything's horrible. Violence, this pestilence, everything's, economic collapse. All these atrocities are going on. But then you open up your door and you go outside and you hear birds chirping and the sun's
Yeah.
shining, and it's
Yeah.
like, there's nothing going on. You go to the store, there's nobody's, freaking out and
Yeah.
robbing each other. It's crazy. So, but
We
yeah,
all
like you
we
said, the
Yeah.
CIA JFK assassination, that's really when it was really starting to, when they were demonizing, and they were basically saying it was right wingers, right? Remember?
Yeah.
You
Yes.
were there. Well, you
Yep.
weren't there, but
Yeah. Well, no, and but what's interesting is you have, the 1991 movie JFK, and produced by Oliver Stone, who is not a right winger by any stretch.
right.
Definitely, left wing and progressive on so many issues. Except, with Oliver Stone, he and I mean, I may be on one paradigm edge, he's on the other, but on JFK, we're right there, and there's others too. A lot of, I mean, Weisberg, his whitewash series, left winger, progressive, but a conspiracy, believer that JFK was, and he has such detailed stuff. David Lifton's Best Evidence. He's liberal,
Yeah.
and he was on the commission. And great book, probably the best book on, well, at least the autopsy, the discrepancies between the hospital, the Parkland Hospital where they worked on JFK, and then several hours later, the autopsy at Bethesda, and the discrepancies. And he just goes through all that. It's a read, but he's not a conservative. But yeah. So you've got. It's funny. I don't want to say strange bedfellows. That's a term I heard a lot when I was a kid. But people end up on the same thing on JFK, but they're from. But you do have
Different
polar
sides of it.
opposites. But I
Yeah.
know super conservatives that truly believe Oswald. Yeah, he was a communist, and so that's where they go. And even the Warren Commission kind of pumped that up a little bit. And he did go to Russia. He did defect. He probably gave them secrets. That's what Francis Gary Powers thought when he was shot down in 1960.
Well,
Yeah,
wasn't Oswald hanging out with Fidel Castro's mistress?
yeah. There
Isn't
was,
there? And she
and
was a CIA operative. She was a
mhm,
spy. She had didn't she mother one of his children, Fidel
something like
Castro? She
that.
was his mistress,
Yeah,
and
hmm,
then she traveled to. They went somewhere together. That's come out. I read
yeah,
that when I was preparing, because we did JFK in two parts.
yeah.
Probably need to do another one, just because
Okay.
like when you and I were talking about it on the show, the web, it's a conspiracy within a. There's so many
Hmm.
moving pieces of that puzzle. Like, it's so interconnected. And then George Bush being there, traveling to
Yeah.
Dallas, Texas on the day before Kennedy shot, and he's there at Dealey Plaza, and
Yep.
but then
Yep.
he says he can't remember.
Richard Nixon can't remember either, but he was in the Plaza Hotel as a lawyer for Coca-Cola after he lost the presidency in 1960 and then was defeated for governor by Jerry Brown Sr. in 1962.
Well, and
And
then
yeah,
yeah, and then
what's he doing there?
yeah, exactly. But Kennedy had rocked the boat. Like,
Yes.
Kennedy was rocking the boat. He was trying to
Hmm.
he wasn't gonna. He didn't want to go to Vietnam. There was the Cuban Missile Crisis. There was the botched Bay of Pigs, right?
Hmm.
He pissed off the mafia because supposedly they got him elected, right? They did all these favors for
Yeah.
his dad to get him elected, and then they basically turned their back on the mob. So, and then he wanted, like you said, disassemble the CIA,
Hmm.
break it apart, and you know, get rid of the Federal Reserve, the central banks. So yeah, I mean, then he gets shot, and then it was just this crazy lone gunman that worked at the school book depository, like.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then his brother gets shot by another crazy guy years later. And I saw that
Yeah.
he's up for parole, Sirhan Sirhan.
Yeah. That's right. Yep. He's been released. He has been
Oh,
released.
he's out.
Yeah. He's out. He's out. And the Kennedy family isn't very happy, understandably so. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Um, and he's written a lot of books on the pandemic and the problems with the pandemic and vaccines in general. And so he's an interesting guy too, because he's very liberal, but he's taking I guess you could say, a far conservative viewpoint on a lot of things about vaccines in general and the pandemic situation here in particular. There again, he would probably think there's a conspiracy afoot, but he's progressive. I think still a registered Democrat and everything else. So crosses party lines in odd ways, as I have found throughout the years. So I don't know if we want to get into this, but um, let's see this whole Maricopa thing. I don't know if we're allowed to talk about that.
The
You've done,
election.
yeah, the recount, not the recount, but because it's not a recount, it's a recertification. It's the audit. I see it as an audit, and I'm not 100% sure. I haven't done a whole lot of reading on it. There's a government teacher at Boca High who's pretty middle of the road on a lot of stuff. And when the election first occurred, he was highlighting several counties in these key states where the voting slowed down and basically stopped. Fulton County, Georgia, Milwaukee, whatever that county is in Wisconsin. See, where else was it? Maricopa. He was really, really looking and scrutinizing Maricopa a lot. And he and his friend, uh, whose father went to Westminster, Chip Allen. Now this is Chip's son, and I forget the young man's name, lacrosse player, but he's good friends with the Boca High government teacher, and this is all they talked about was Maricopa in the days of the election and that night and then the days following. So this is a big deal. What is your take on that? You've watched some of the breaking stuff today. You said,
Yeah, I watched a little bit of it, but it's fascinating to me that 20 years ago, you know, I'm in Tallahassee, Florida, the capital of Florida, where the Supreme Court, the Florida Supreme Court is,
mm-hmm.
and it was the Gore Bush election, right? Remember the
Yeah,
hanging Chad and the dimple Chad, and that was
wow,
back when we had paper ballots, but you had to punch through that little hole, right? And then it would mark it and then they would run those through a machine to count them, right? Or they would hand count them. I don't even know how they did it back then, but I just remember all the news stations were there covering the recount, and that was
mm-hmm.
something that the Democrats wanted. That was you have to count the state. It was so close in Florida
Yeah, it
that they
was.
demanded a recount. And so all the news stations were there. I mean, it was widely covered. It was a huge event. I mean, I remember I had to take Highway 90, which cuts through the center of Tallahassee, cuts through downtown, and the Supreme Court is on one of those side streets in downtown. You couldn't use that road. You had to like go around these other roads because it was just chaotic. There was protesters, there was
Mm.
CNN trucks and
Yeah.
NBC trucks and CBS trucks and all that, and um, so now here we are, and we use electronic voting systems,
Yeah.
and the Republican Party it's like it's switched. So you had the
Yeah.
Democrat Party, demanding a recount, and it was a huge event. And then you have this Republican Party now demanding not a recount, but an audit of what they were looking at
Mm-hmm.
was the you know were they mail-in votes? Were they folded? Was the envelope signed? I mean, they were looking at the technicals of the vote. They knew that Biden had more votes. I mean, we all know that. We all know Biden had more votes in Arizona than Trump did in Maricopa County. But they weren't questioning the tally. They were questioning the votes that were tallied. Were they legitimate votes? That's what they were looking at.
Okay.
They were looking at serial numbers, serial codes, signatures, and they found that like there was like 17,000 duplicates and stuff like that. I mean, so there is some now. Was it human error, or like I always like you and I talk about, is it dumb or diabolical? Is it just human errors, humans being humans and messing up, or is it something diabolical, something nefarious?
Yeah, we have.
But I don't know. I mean, I don't. I don't. What are they going? What are they going to do? What are they going to do?
Well, that's where. Yeah, I was wondering.
What are you going to do? The Senate can't do anything in Arizona. They got to hand it over to the district attorney. What's the district? Do you think the district attorney is going to You think he's going to fall on his sword for Trump?
Is that how it works? Because I'm not sure how it works.
Yeah. So basically they take all that information, all that evidence, okay, if whatever discrepancies there are, and they give it to the district attorney, and then the district attorney has to file suit.
Jeez.
I guess against the election board or whatever.
Yeah.
And I mean, you're talking criminal charges.
Yes. And
like I said, is the district attorney going to do that? Is he going to fall on his sword for Trump? I mean, your career is pretty much over if you lose.
Yeah. That's true of a lot of things.
And you're going to get death threats, and the Democrats I got to give them credit. They stick together and they plan. I mean, they had it out on the news 7:00 this morning that the recount, the audit's a joke. It was, I mean, they're always one step ahead of the Republicans. I'm a registered independent, so I vote for the character. If the guy is good or the woman is good, and she's got they got good policies. They're putting policies in front of politics. Their principles in front of their personality. If they just so happen to be a Democrat, I'll vote for them. And the same thing goes with the Republicans. But I have a saying. It's a one-party system, and that's the party of money, and it has two branches. So that's my. That's my little take on it. So
all right, no, that's good.
But I know you're a very conservative Republican, and Republicans are morals. You got to follow the rules. You got to do this. It's all about integrity, but the game is it's a cutthroat world we live in. You can't be so nice sometimes, and I think the part of the Republican Party's problem is they need to start stepping up, and they don't, because they're all being paid by the same people.
Yeah.
But that's my conspiracy theory.
So. Okay. You develop that one. All right.
It's the party of money, and it has two branches. There you go. That's my conspiracy theory. So anyways, we already talked about this, the JFK. Yes. I think this is where we're headed with, if you question the narrative, now the FBI is involved, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
What is the FBI view? The FBI's role is to investigate domestic issues, right?
Yeah.
The CIA kind of handles foreign issues. The FBI handles domestic issues. So now the FBI is basically, identifying conspiracy theorists as domestic terrorists, domestic extremists, and that if we believe a theory, and it all comes back to January 6th. You had the QAnon people, right?
Yep.
And the QAnon people were, let's admit, some of them were not diagnosed. There was some diagnosed with medication, and then there was a lot of undiagnosed people that were probably self-medicating at that rally, and they got a little in over their head. They believed that Trump was the savior, and that Mike Pence was going to overturn the. I mean, it was just this.
Yeah.
But I think that was a psyop. I think that whole 4chan and that QAnon thing was just, those people were manipulated by somebody.
Well, a lot of FBI undercover agents.
They were there at the Capitol, provocateurs.
And it's funny because the FBI now has said that there's no evidence of a insurrection on the part of I mean, they've already kind of backed themselves out of it and said they will not be participating
Well,
in any of
wasn't
the
the
stuff.
Capitol bombed during Nixon
Yeah,
in like
Puerto Rico,
1971 or something? There was a bomb
19,
that,
yeah, 1947, Puerto Ricans stormed the House of Representatives, Puerto Rican independent
yeah, yeah,
activists.
but then there was an
Uh,
actual bomb that went off in the
yes.
Capitol
Yeah, I forget when
in
that
like
was.
1970, and that made
Sure.
Nixon all paranoid and stuff. That
Yeah,
was right
sure.
before Watergate.
Yep.
It blew up. It destroyed part of the building. Like, and so for
Mhm.
them to say that this is the worst attack when you had a bunch of grannies taking selfies, and I mean,
Yeah.
a lot of those, they were staying inside those the little ropes and stuff.
Yeah.
And I mean, yeah, some people did some bad stuff. I mean, they shouldn't have done it. I mean, they shouldn't have done it. They desecrated our capitals. A lot of them did, but most of the people that went there, I think, were just kind of like, oh, hey, we're here. They took a bunch of pictures like they were at a museum, and then they left.
Well, the House
And
of
now they're in, and
Representatives.
now a lot of
Yeah.
them are in jail.
So the trial, I guess, I don't know if the House. See, I'm not sure. I really haven't followed it that much. I just don't have an interest in it because I agree with you. I don't think it was a big deal, but um, there is a trial, but I don't know that it's is it district Washington D.C. District Court because there is a judge and the Democrats in Congress were asking the judge to be really hard, or the judge was saying that she really wanted the prosecutors to really be hard on these people that were accused, which is the judge crossing the line of being
If
just a
they did
judge.
something wrong, like if
Yeah,
they destroyed property or if
yeah,
they hurt somebody, yeah, of course they need to be prosecuted. But if they just went in and took
yeah.
some photos and then
One of
walked
the
out,
guys,
like,
yeah, one of the guys who was arrested was asking the judge if he could be taken off the list of those charged because he was a Democrat and he was dressed up as a Trump supporter. So he asked if he could, and she said, "No, you were there. You're part of the insurrection or whatever it was." So who knows where it's going to go? I mean, it's a show trial, in my opinion, like the Russians used to do or the Nazis even. It's just there's really not, and Republicans aren't going to participate or be allowed to ask questions. So I don't know. I guess it is in the House, and I guess they're bringing in. I don't know. Nancy Pelosi's got it all, whatever, and we should see if they will use her laptop as evidence during it. That would be interesting. Allegedly, this is something I
yeah,
heard.
good luck with that.
Yeah, I know. Oh, this is a great cartoon. That's funny.
Yeah, I love Gary Larson.
Yeah. Um, is that it again, Mister Conspiracy Theory?
Is that it again? Yeah,
Trying
it
to
didn't
warn
count.
people about.
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh,
Well, look,
yeah.
what's funny is he's holding up this picture, and it's got the cow all sectioned off, like the
Yeah. Yeah.
brisket and the ribeye, and
Yeah.
he's like,
Yeah.
hey, they're gonna slaughter you, and they're like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah. Mister
And that's
Conspiracy.
just kind of how it is,
Yeah.
conspiracy theorists are deemed as crazy people. Uh,
Well,
this is Always Sunny. I love this show.
yeah.
But they did a whole episode on conspiracy theories. It was good, but yeah, I mean, we're demonized as crazy people. If you question the narrative, I mean,
Yeah.
we could go all day about the stuff that goes on, that what's been going on, here recently, because you know there's questions. I think you should be allowed to ask questions. Isn't that science? Like,
You know,
you
freedom.
science
Yeah.
questions, yeah, you should be free to. It's a free country. Like, you and I may disagree, but you have
Yeah.
your opinion and I have my opinion. And I'd be honest with you, like, if this was the Democrat, like, let's say Trump won and the Republicans cheated and they duplicated
Yeah.
ballots and all, I would be all for audits. Like, hey,
Yeah.
yeah, you
Sure.
all need to look into it. We need to have
Yeah.
fair elections.
Yeah.
You know, but
Yeah.
yeah, if you question
Tinfoil
it,
hat.
you're just a tinfoil hat person. You
Yeah.
believe in reptoids and lizard people and all sorts of crazy stuff. But as a history teacher, you always told me that, hey, there's the textbook version, and then there's these versions,
Yeah.
and what I always found is that it's cyclic.
Hmm.
It's very cyclic. So cyclical. I don't know how you say it.
Cyclical. Yeah.
Cyclical. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
cyclical. Like things just happen. Uh, you know, the same thing. You always said history repeats itself.
Yes.
And who has the quote? If you forget about your history, you're doomed to repeat it. Was that
Repeat it.
Benjamin Franklin?
I can't remember. Boy, I should know that, and I don't. If you don't learn the lessons from history, you will repeat them. Yes, you'll do it again. I don't remember who said
Well,
that. Probably
maybe one of our
maybe. Yeah.
watchers
Come on.
can join
Yes.
in and
Yeah.
and tell us.
One of the three.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's all right. A lot of
History.
people watch it.
Yeah.
It's Friday night. You got to remember, it's power hour.
Yeah.
It's 8
Yeah.
o'clock on a Friday night.
Yeah.
People are going back out. Everybody's vaccinated, so they can go
Yeah.
out. They're allowed to, they go show their
Jeez.
papers, and then they can go out to eat and stuff like that. So,
Wow.
welcome to the
Man.
gulag.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Well, I have my paper right here. I tested. Here it is. I tested positive, and this summer, and there it is, positive tests, and I survived it with flying colors. My wife did as well. She probably doesn't want me to say that, but she survived it. It was tough, but lost taste and smell, so I know I had it, and the test proves that I had it. But I have immunity, so I'm good. So I didn't get on the big bus at school today
Well,
to
you can't. You're
get the
not
jab.
allowed to give people medical advice. I hate to say it.
Okay. Well, I'm
So
not. I'm just
speaking,
saying.
well,
Yeah.
so that kind of leads us into this. Speaking
Okay.
of the pandemic and all this, and having to get a shot to go to work and to go out to eat. Um, I found this article in the New York Times from December 7th, 1897,
Wow.
and it's called the title of the article is called "The Atlanta Vaccination War."
Hmm.
So what were we talking about just a few minutes ago about history repeating
Yeah.
itself? I mean,
Yeah. Wow.
they were going through this over 100 years ago. Same thing. This is in America.
That was smallpox. Was that what that was?
Yeah. So this was
Okay.
smallpox, and
All
but
right.
this was actually so obviously it was a different time back then.
Sure.
Uh, the civil rights movement hadn't happened yet. Um, this is what 30 years after the
Mhm.
Civil War ended, right?
Yeah, and
Civil
it
War
was also
ended what 1860 something.
1865, and this is 2 years
Yeah.
after the Atlanta Compromise speech that Booker T. Washington gave of Tuskegee Institute, where he is alleged. Well, I don't think he was kowtowing to white supremacy at that time, uh, but he is accused of kind of caving in to yeah, the whites running the show. We don't have time to go through all of it. And he was vilified by another African American, W.E.B. Du Bois. And any of you that remember um, APUS history, I used to give you the DBQ that was between Du Bois and Washington, and it was around this time period. And both guys had interesting things to say about civil rights at that time. And but Tuskegee, it's often called it's called the Atlanta Compromise speech, and Tuskegee Institute is where it was. George Washington Carver was the chief scientist there, and Booker T. Washington was the president, and probably the
Yeah, the
chief.
inventor of the peanut.
Yes, and all sorts of stuff, carbon fiber. I mean, you go down the list.
Yeah, that guy was amazing.
Yeah, I mean, and so this was a very halcyon time in Black history, after 1895, and this is 1897. So I just remembered that when we had kind of gone through this earlier. Go ahead, tell us about this.
Well,
You
I'm
were
not going to
saying,
read it because it
okay,
uses I mean people can read it up on the screen unless
yeah,
they're on their phone. It might be hard for them to read. But just to kind of give a quick synopsis of what happened. So, uh, on December 6th, the day before, you got to remember, so during smallpox, they were sending doctors into impoverished areas. So if you lived in like the rich part of town, you didn't really have to worry about being so close to people. But in the back then there were shanty towns kind of like that,
yeah,
in
hmm,
poorer areas, and they all lived real close to each other. And so in a lot of those places, there was not a lot of plumbing. So diseases spread very fast. So doctors, they would send doctors, government physicians into these towns, these little shanty towns, these areas, poor areas of town, white and black. Okay, uh, and um, and they would force inoculate people. What
Oh.
started happening was that the doctors were getting assaulted. Some of them got murdered. Some of them were killed. They
Hmm.
were being assaulted, and so they started to have police escorts. So then when the police escorts came, obviously they would either barricade the home, so they would surround the home, barricade the windows while the doctor went in, and they were basically bodyguards for these physicians, these doctors that would inoculate people. So what happened here was this was a wedding in a black neighborhood, and they went in and they barricaded the home and they force inoculated the bride and groom and all the members of the wedding party. And then they would also do this at courthouses. So they would, have everybody would be given the same court date to kind of corral them into the courthouse. And then the
Hmm.
cops would surround the courthouse, barricade the doors,
Hmm.
barricade the windows, and the doctor would go in and just start force injecting people. And the majority of them
Wow.
were African Americans. So that's basically what this article is. And let me remove the so that people can read the bottom of it.
Okay.
Uh, so that's where it says smallpox and stuff like that. But yeah, they
Mm.
would go to house canvas, and the doctors pursuing every subterfuge has been tried to elude vaccination. In some cases, the African Americans have remained away from home for weeks simply to evade the law. So that was
Wow.
another thing too. Like they would just take off. They
Yeah.
wouldn't even. So when they would show up at their house, they wouldn't be home.
Yeah.
So we've been through this before.
Yes.
Uh, this is nothing new, and it ended. It went away. It went away. And this too shall pass. Right. Uh,
Maybe.
none of
I
it
don't know. This
None of
one's
this goes on forever. Well, they're gonna hit us. They're gonna hit a stopping point here soon.
well, this vaccine didn't come from China, so I don't know. I guess that's one different Wuhan lab. They didn't have Anthony Fauci, and we didn't have to. Well, they were wearing masks on some of them. The Spanish flu, we saw that picture in
Yeah, well, that
1918.
was that was yeah, that was 1980. So that was right around 100 years ago. And that's what I mean.
Yes.
It's
Yeah.
cyclical.
Yeah.
Or
So what's this? This
history
is your.
repeats itself. This is what got me banned off of Facebook. All right. Now
Oh, then.
I used their actual fact check website. I included it with another meme, and so I think they just kind of threw the two memes together. So this is what put me in the gulag. Uh, was the Hillary Clinton scandal, using hammers to destroy cell phones. Now, the claim is that she used a hammer to destroy her cell phone, right? Well, that's not entirely true, because if you read the what's true and what's false there at the bottom, is that what's true is that her aide used the hammer to
Yeah.
destroy her cell phone. She
Oh,
didn't
okay.
use the hammer to destroy her cell phone. So the reason why I brought that up is just because it just kind of shows you how easily they can call you a conspiracy theorist. Like, oh, Hillary Clinton's breaking her cell phone. They're like, no, that's not true. But they don't tell you that it was her aide. What do they call that? A white lie, where it's not the whole
Yeah.
truth.
Yeah.
It,
Something like
it's
that.
it's
Sure.
partial truth.
Yeah. White lie, I guess.
Like
I
they're
don't know.
admitting that they don't admit that, no, she didn't destroy her cell phone, because they changed the wording around,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
no, you're right, she did not physically pick up a hammer and destroyed her cell phone, but she physically gave her cell phone to somebody to destroy.
Was it in her
So what's
presence?
the
Yeah.
difference?
Yeah.
Everybody
Well,
gets hung up on the vernacular or whatever,
yeah, sure. No, that's
the
it.
the words.
So it's okay. Well, that's interesting. So are you back on? You're back on. Okay.
I think I'm out of the gulag. Yeah, we're live on
Yeah.
Facebook.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So some of your
All right.
students got to see you. I don't.
Yeah.
It's hard for me to manage all this from here, because I got my iPad going, I got my phone going, I got my
Sure.
other computer screen on. So and then trying to manage the restream, I can't really check to see who's.
Okay.
I can look at the YouTube chat, And yeah, nobody's watching, so that's all right. Well, you don't have any friends, remember? That's why
That's
you're not on
right. That's right. I
Facebook.
don't have Facebook. I don't have any friends. So, yeah, yes, go ahead. Read this one. This one, you shared that one earlier. That's interesting. And that might put you in the middle of the road there, which is okay. That's a
Well,
Alan
this is kind of
Moore.
for everybody. Like,
Sure.
like with anything, you have the extremes, right? You got the
Hmm.
extreme right, you got the extreme left, right?
Hmm.
And then you got somewhere in the middle, right? And the extreme conspiracy theorists, they talk about lizard people and aliens and flat earth and new world order and which
Hmm.
yeah, there's a global central banking system. We all
Yeah.
know that.
It's on the Federal Reserve crest. Know the
There
syllabus
are,
of quorum. Go
by
ahead.
President Biden today said, that we're going to tax the trillionaires and billionaires. Well, there's no trillionaires on paper, but the monarch, the monarchs, the princes, and they're trillionaires.
Yeah.
There are
Yeah.
trillionaires in this world. They're not Americans, but yes,
Yeah.
there are trillionaires. Um,
Guess he's going to tax them somehow.
hey man, go for it.
Yeah. Yeah. So
But
what?
yeah, so like, and then you
Mm,
got the people that say, well, there's no conspiracies at all ever. It's the world is boring, and you're just trying to make it more interesting
mhm,
for yourself. So this is a guy. His name's Alan Moore, and I just thought that this was an interesting quote that he
yeah.
has, and people can read it. That it's basically saying that yeah, there's a conspiracy, there's a great number of them, and they all but I think what he gets at and what most people get at is they're one group controlling the whole world. And
Hmm.
I mean, we could probably do a whole show about the New World Order, and that's
Yeah.
probably what we'll do. And we could do the Federal Reserve and the New World Order. Is it
Wow.
is it true? I mean, yeah, you have the UN, right? You got the
Hmm.
IMF, International Monetary Fund, right?
Hmm.
You got the central banks,
Now
and
you
then
have, yeah. Now you have the World Economic Forum.
you got the
Klaus
World
Schwab.
Economic Forum.
Wow.
Yep, yeah. But are they all the same people? There's different, the UN's made up of different people, the IMF's made up of different people, the central banking system's made up of different people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The World Economic Forum, do they all meet? What are
Yeah.
your thoughts on that?
Well,
New World Order
I
and
don't know if they all
I
they go to Davos, Davos. Is that Switzerland? I forget where Davos is, and they all fly in on their private jets while pushing climate change on the rest of us. They're flying. They're not flying coach on Delta to get there. They fly the world. Even John Kerry uh, uses a private jet. Not necessarily, he could go coach or first class like the rest of us to these climate conferences. And anyway, so is it a conspiracy? They all seem to be heading in the same direction, and we're experiencing, some of the economic problems now, as you said earlier, supply chain situations, Bidenflation, which is what it's been called,
well, now it's
inflation.
stagflation now.
Yeah, yeah,
That's worse.
yeah, and that happened during Nixon. You had stagflation during Nixon's term, and I remember that. And his Department of Energy czar wasn't Weinberger. I forget the guy's name. Might have been. He said that you're not going to be able to have there's going to be a day you're not going to be able to have hot showers unless you have a propane generator like you do or a solar something going on. I mean, there'll be climate shutdowns, climate lockdowns. This was talked about, during Nixon's term, and now we're hearing it, possibility of it. Do they work together? I don't really have any.
Well, back in the
Yeah,
70s, wasn't it global cooling?
yeah. Oh
Like
man,
they were saying that the world was going to freeze.
yeah. And then you
Now
have
it's global warming.
Al Gore gets the whatever that was, Nobel Peace Prize or the Pulitzer Prize for
Yeah, that.
his whatever that was,
And
climate
in the
change movement.
meantime, they all buy beach houses and they
Yeah,
live next to the ocean. Well,
yeah,
isn't the sea level supposed to rise? Why are you guys buying,
yeah,
$12 million homes right close, 5
Yeah.
feet above sea level by the ocean. It's supposed to rise 6 feet.
We live on a lake, as you know, and you were saying earlier. I just wanted to get this in case we run out of time. That at the end of the day, you go outside, you hear the birds chirping, and you breathe fresh air, and you just
Yeah,
you
the world
appreciate.
isn't ending.
Yeah, and I just wanted to say that sometimes I go to the back, or because we're on the lake, and I open the door, and I might hear birds chirping, but I'm not as positive as you because I see raccoons defecating all over my.
I
Okay,
knew
whatever.
I knew something
You
was
knew something
coming.
was coming. That was it. I just wanted to get that
I
in.
was waiting
And they
for it.
do.
Yeah.
My wife has purchased more. What are they called? Mothballs, and she throws those around. I think the raccoons are eating them. I think they think they're Skittles or something. I don't know. Anyway, so
Probably why they're defecating so
yeah,
much.
and we have I think a camera set up out there to take pictures of stuff. Anyway, yeah, okay, I threw all that in there. So um, crazy stuff. All right, so this guy says it's just. I'm reading it. Alan Moore says it's just chaos. The world is full of chaos. It's not really
It's rudderless. Yeah.
rudderless. Okay, so it's not necessarily a
It's a
conspiracy.
chaotic world, and I was
Yeah.
talking to Ricky the other day,
Okay.
and he was like, and we were talking about the same thing. Like we go out, we go to the store, nobody's wearing a mask anymore. I mean, some people are, but a lot of people aren't. Nobody's
Yeah.
yelling at you, nobody's
Yeah.
assaulting you. Like you hear about that stuff because it makes for a good story. It's a
Right.
good click. You get the click, if you're on the web and you're looking up news, you get the click. And that's what it really is. It's just fear mongering. When you go out to eat and you have a good meal, you may come home and be like, man, that was a good meal. Like that restaurant was good. And you may tell a friend. But if you have a bad meal at some place, you're going to tell 20 people.
Yeah.
When I was in the restaurant business and I had my restaurant, I would always say, hey, we got to, every meal's got to be perfect because the negativity spreads faster than the positivity.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
if you give bad service, if you screw people's night, their evening up, they're going to go tell all their friends about it. Don't ever eat at Fusion Cafe because the service was horrible or whatever, it took too long or this or that and the other. But if you have a good experience, you're just going to go home and be like, hey, someone may ask you a question. Hey, did you go eat at that place? They're like, yeah. They're like, how was it? Oh, it was okay. It was good. It was okay. They're not
Yeah.
going to go tell a bunch of people. So that's just how it is. Negativity, these bad stories and stuff that we hear, if you watch the news, it's all negative, because
Yeah.
the negativity, the ratings go up. And you got to remember, all these news stations, it's not news, it's entertainment with
Yeah.
a news theme, right?
They're corporations.
Yeah, it's an entertainment industry that has a news theme, right? So the men wear makeup and costumes, the women wear makeup, okay? They read off a script, all right? And it's basically what they think or what they feel is going to get the most attention. So it's always going to be negative. Look, you want to talk about a conspiracy? Look what they did with the border patrol agent using the reins on his
Yeah.
horse.
Yeah.
That one image of him grabbing the guy and his rein was, it was wavy. They took that one image and turned it into
Yeah.
this huge,
Yeah.
to kind of distract everybody away from the fact that
We're
thousands of
just
people were living under a bridge with nothing but porta potties. And I mean,
Yeah.
during a pandemic, right?
Yeah.
The deadliest pandemic,
Nobody's getting checked for COVID. They're all flooding
Yeah.
in.
Right. But
Yeah,
they
it's
don't want you to
crazy.
talk about that. They want you
No.
to talk
No.
about the border patrol guy using his reins as a whip.
Or wearing masks in schools. Teachers and students being masked in schools. Just constantly. And the effectiveness of masks, which we know. I mean, the CDC said it's inconclusive. So, but we're going to wear them. But meanwhile, you got all these people without masks crossing the border, and here they come. This is a good one too.
So this is
Yeah,
2020 showing 2020 around the workplace. And
that's
and,
good.
and the reason why I thought this was funny is because it's just it goes it never ends. It's next
Yeah,
year's going to be something else, and the year
yeah.
after that there's going to be something else. You just have to go live your life.
So that's a false flags, which are conspiracies, I guess.
Yeah,
False flags.
exactly. It's a group of people trying to get they're trying to stir the pot.
Some label 9/11 as a false flag, which we won't go there, but that's where I've heard it used most. Uh, yeah, that's that's a great cartoon or whatever that is, picture, photo, and, and inscription, I guess. Yeah,
They're called memes.
means okay. Alrighty, good. You got any more? Is that it? You run out of.
No. So
Okay.
the only other thing I had, which I thought was, we always go on Wikipedia.
Yeah, I do. I use it. If I want to find somebody, like my wife's watching movies and I want to say, hey, is that actress still living? And then we look it up. Yeah, look at that. There's the Federal Reserve. Go ahead.
Yeah, so they of course the big one is always the dollar bill, the all seeing
Yeah.
eye. That's like one of the number one conspiracies is the money and all that, and like I said, the Federal Reserve.
Can you blow
Uh,
that up? Blow that up right there, and we'll read the Latin inscription:
yeah,
Novus Ordo Seclorum. And I had 2 years of Latin at South Lake High School in St. Clair Shores, Michigan, and I remember Novus Ordo Seclorum stands for New World Order, and there it
yes,
is on the dollar
yeah,
bill. But it's
and
also,
the eye of
yeah,
the eye of the Illuminati,
yeah,
right? And
from the very beginning of our country. I mean, Washington D.C. is designed. It's Masonic. If you want to get into the Masons, goodness sakes, secret
well, we can spend a
handshakes.
couple of minutes on that
Oh,
because I actually the other day I was watching this show and they were talking about that. They were talking about you know Washington wanted to get away from the Illuminati because the
hmm
Illuminati, the Masons were big in Europe, but it was the bad version of the Illuminati. So there's the
hmm
good Masons, and then there's the evil Masons. And
yeah,
I guess Thomas Jefferson, he was using Thomas Jefferson had to write some letters. I mean, it was crazy. He wrote letters to
mhm,
the French, and that's what they were trying to do. They were trying to use the Mason, the principles of Masonry, but to do it in a good way,
yeah.
uh, rather than an enslavement type of thing.
George Washington was a Freemason, and he laid the cornerstone of the Capitol in Masonic attire with a trowel and his Masonic apron. So, I mean, yeah, he was a sort of 33rd degree Freemason. Bill Clinton is a 33rd degree Freemason. George Herbert Walker Bush, 33-degree Freemason.
I thought he was Skull and Bones.
Well, but he was also a Freemason. Barack Obama is a Freemason. Um, we can go on and on and on. I mean, there's tons of them.
Keep going.
Yeah, I mean, they're very. I think there's like 29 or 30 U.S. presidents of all the presidents we've had who are Freemasons. So it's not, is it an accident? Is it a setup? I don't know. It's an
Well,
interest. Yeah.
I think you're talking about elites at that
Yes.
point.
hmm
They have all the money and all the power, the elites, the
hmm
1%, right?
Yeah.
So, and one of our guests made an interesting comment. Dot Connector said, the elite would be foolish not to conspire together. So that's
Yeah.
that's true.
So, yeah, all those organizations, those alphabet organizations we talked about earlier, WEF and others. Yeah, are they in it together? Boy, yeah, kind of. I would say they certainly don't. It's like you say, follow the money, and they're all billionaires. And I don't mean to generalize everything to that. It's crony capitalism, I guess. It's not really capitalism. It's elitist capitalists, etc. So there you have it. All
Well,
right,
there you go.
there's that symbol, Novus Ordo Seclorum. Wow.
Yeah, it's on the back of
Yeah.
every dollar bill.
Yep.
Washington, George,
Yep.
on the back of every George
And
Washington.
it's also part of I think the symbol for the Federal Reserve, I believe, if I recall. I think that's what's around it, or that's what's nearby it. Okay. So yeah,
Well, speaking of
conspiracy. Yes.
capitalism, yeah, the conspiracy theory about conspiracy theories. So, what's our conclusion on that?
Well, I don't know where to go with that because there's some things that I think that the brain people
It's
have
a
to.
conundrum question
Yeah,
kind of
and
deal.
our brain is constantly trying to make sense of things, and they kind of go back to Alan Moore thing where, is it just we're rudderless, and is it our sin nature? But even brain scientists say that the human brain, the right hemisphere, the left hemisphere, they compete against each other. Uh, so what is it that you got the artistic and creative side is the right side, the down to business speech, um, basic seedbed of emotions, the left frontal lobe. I mean, uh, we're trying to make sense.
Right, you're
So,
trying to connect the dots.
and a conspiracy theory helps you connect dots and helps you make sense. So maybe it's just biologically indigenous to the human animal or whatever you want to call it. Well, we're an animal anyway. But that's that was what I was saying, that there's probably a biological explanation, biophysiological explanation that we're wired to make sense of stuff, and that could be
Right.
why we drift, why I may drift towards the conspiracies, trying to explain everything as a conspiracy. And I have a hard time now, especially not doing that in the pandemic time we're in. I try not to do that. And I don't like to say that in front of kids, and it's really not my role to do that as a teacher because I have a specific subject. But
But
uh,
you're
yeah,
also you have a master's degree in U.S. history, so
yeah,
you know that all this stuff has happened before. You know,
sure,
they've tried this before. They've done this. An outbreak had, and you and I remember we were on the phone the other day and we were talking about, is it dumb or diabolical?
yeah,
Is it just people being dumb? Like, hey, I don't want to be to blame for all these
yeah,
deaths, so I'm just going to do what they're doing. And then those people are saying, well, I don't want to be blamed for all these deaths, so I'm going to do what they're doing. And then that way no one can blame me because we just did what we were told. Or is it actually diabolical? Is there just some major plan to wipe out most of human civilization?
yeah,
Who knows? I
yeah,
mean, I know that I get upset sometimes when I go to the grocery store and it's real busy and I'm like, God, man, there's too many freaking people on this planet. And if I can think that,
yeah,
you know what I mean?
yeah,
Then, a group of wealthy people thinking the same thing, like, hey, these people are using up all our resources.
yeah, sure.
These deplorables, these bottom feeders, like, so who knows?
Well, my final comment would be on March the 5th, 1941, a Freemason said, and this was 6 months before Pearl Harbor, a Freemason said, if something happens in history, you can bet it didn't happen by accident. It was planned that way. And that person
Oh,
was Franklin D. Roosevelt.
yep. There you
There you
go. And
go.
then Pearl Harbor happened.
Yep, yep. That's it.
Go figure.
Yeah. Time's up. Wow, we're right at the end.
Yeah, we got to give a few people some shout outs. We got some
Good.
donations. So we want to thank everybody for that. First off is Shaquille Oatmeal. Thank you for the $5. So
Wow.
Mr. Joynt, Shaquille Oatmeal bought you a drink.
That's a tall
Uh,
order. That's a tall
yeah,
order.
there
Wow.
you go.
Sorry. I want to
Shaquille
get.
Oatmeal.
Okay.
Um, Anquifa says there's fight or flight, so flight the system.
Wow. You
So I
must
guess
have
they
a.
don't want to. I guess Anquifa doesn't want to fight. But thank you, Anquifa, for the
Yeah.
$5.
Thank you.
Biden sniffed me. Says my new favorite show on YouTube. Thank you, Biden sniffed me. Thank you. He donated 10, so that's 2 drinks from
Wow.
Biden sniffed
Man.
me.
Boy, I had
Um,
water tonight, but anyway, sorry. That's my cold beverage for the night.
Unvaxxed homie says these people, man.
That's funny. Good.
Unvaxxed homie says, "Don't be a vax hole. Vote for Nicki Minaj."
Oh yeah, yeah. She's something. Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
man.
actually,
I was
I
impressed.
will. I don't understand. You can't just say what you want to say anymore.
You
Like,
should find out where her address is and send her the New York Times Atlanta vaccine war article. Goodness. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure she probably already knows about it. That's why
Yeah.
she said what she said.
Wow.
They know about Tuskegee. I mean, this stuff isn't new.
Then the economist from the FBA that said that we should just take blowguns and blowgun the darts into all the blacks that do not want to be vaccinated and just blowgun the jab into them. He said that. It was
I didn't see that.
yeah,
Where was that?
Project Veritas had it.
Oh well, they're
He
gonna
was
discredit
yeah
him.
yeah they were he's an economist with the FDA, and he was frustrated because people weren't getting vaccinated.
Well, but
Yeah,
he's not really FD. He's an economist.
yeah,
So what they do, those
yeah,
guys are. He doesn't. So what that is like. So they have to basically. Okay, how much money is it? Is it if we have to vaccinate X amount? This part of the population.
right,
How much
right.
is it for this? If all these people die, how much is that going to cost the the economy as far as
Mm-hmm.
tax paying and all that? Like if a person
Mm-hmm.
is 10 years old till the time they turn 80,
Mm-hmm.
how much money do they put back into the system? I mean, that I hate to say this, but that's what they do. They put a
Right.
value on every citizen's life. How
Well,
much social
yeah,
security money are they going to get from them? How much
yeah,
income tax are they? They have all these mathematical equations. This isn't a conspiracy theory. This is a fact. They
yeah,
do the
yeah.
same thing with war. Before they go to war with anybody, they calculate how much each bullet's going to cost, the gallon of gas. Before they go invade it, before they fire one shot and invade anybody, they add up all the bullets, how much each soldier cost them. You know what I mean? It's crazy.
So
It's all about.
that's what this
Yeah,
guy
so
was.
so an FDA economist would be the same thing. It'd be like
Yeah,
a war
okay,
economist. So
okay.
basically what he does is, how much does the centers cost us? If we set up this center, this center, this center.
Mm-hmm.
If we regulate this product, how much is it what impact will it have on the economy?
Mm-hmm. Wow. Anyway, it was all right. Well,
All right, is that it?
an hour. That's it, I think. Yes.
Yeah, we reached our
Thank you.
hour.
Thanks all you guys for the money, and I won't be around next week. I've got
You'll be pulled in. I mean, sorry, anthem.
yeah, anthem. Yeah, the quintessential opposite, singing our national anthem. Well, not by myself. That's for darn sure. There's other very talented singers that are there, and Julia, of course, soprano. Your little sister Julia will be singing, and Ryan he's going to be singing with me, and then a few others. Our good friend Neil Nelson, incredible bass, and Brittany, I forget her last name, another soprano, and a few other people. So it'll be nice. And we're gonna a cappella. We harmonize really nicely. Bernie Gonzalez, also who was a WA graduate, and a couple of WA high school kids who are really, really, really good right now. They're in school.
So that's Coral Ridge you're doing it with.
Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, it's the Coral Ridge men's group. I don't know if it's the family night or the men's group night, and they wanted to have a representation. And whoever the Marlins people were, they said, you guys got a pretty good choir. Why don't you get some of your select singers? They said, okay, but they invited me anyway. So, sorry, that was supposed to be.
Well,
funny.
you're the entertainment.
I was the entertainment. That's right.
You're going to be on the pole.
And after, that's right. I'll be looking at the flagpole, and I'll be dancing all the way up. There you go, and down. All right. Jeez, that's an image. Goodness sakes. Oh.
Well, we'll end on that. We'll let everybody sleep well tonight thinking about Mr. Joynt pole dancing.
Yeah. Well, let me finish with a story.
Okay, go ahead.
Your nephew Jack, if anybody, I don't know, just a funny way to maybe end the night. Not really. Self-deprecating humor, which, as everybody knows, I'm very famous for, and I thrive on it. Jack was really little, and Aubrey and Jeffrey were out on a date. I don't even know if Owen was born yet. And Jeffrey had night terrors, where at night when he would go to sleep, your brother Jeffrey, he'd go into stage 4 sleep, and he'd start screaming, and there was nothing wrong with him. I don't know, maybe you remember that, because as you were growing up and 3 years older than him, but anyway, older than he. So Jack had this too when he was just a little boy, and he was spending the night with us, and he was in another room, probably in the back room, what was the red room, and he was screaming. And so Lisa said, "Why don't you go see?" So I checked, and I said, "Honey, I think it is." And I was really tired. I think it's just night terrors. It's stage 4. Jeffrey had it. Jack has it. She says, and we will finish with this. She says, are you sure it's night terrors that he was screaming about and not the fact that you walked into his room with your shirt off? Good night, everybody.
All right. Good night, Dad.
All right. See you. All right.
All right. All right, everybody. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Mr. Joint Live. We won't be here next Friday, but we will be here the following Friday, every Friday night at 8 p.m. But again, thanks for joining us. We hope everybody has a great weekend. Be safe out there, and we will see you all very, very soon. Good night.